Welcome everyone to Charts Focus One, where we teach you how to work hard and trade smart. All right, let's go ahead and go right into the markets. So this week is a very short trading week. So I would advise you guys to be very, very careful with any new positions or with any of the positions that you guys have carried over from last week. Now, with SPY here, let's kind of go over the weekly perspective and what I'm looking out for the next few weeks. So if you take a look in the past year, so from early April to around mid-May, you can clearly tell that we had a huge and grandiose pullback. And if you kind of come down to the numbers, we had 7 consecutive red weeks, right? 7 consecutive weeks of pullback in the overall markets. And the reason why I'm looking at this specific area is that, well, if you take a look at the past 3 weeks, the most 3 recent weeks, we're kind of making the same pattern. And not just off of the candlesticks, right? If you take a look at the volume, we're seeing a similar pattern. So in the past, when we had this 7-week pullback, the volume saw a rapid increase in selling volume, right? And obviously, once the zenith point of the sell-off occurred, the volume decided to come back down, and we had that nice oversold bounce. And in the past 3 recent weeks, we're also seeing a similar parallel increase in volume, right? And last week, we saw the biggest amount of selling volume coming in after our most recent rally. Okay, so I'm not saying that there's a potential for us to have the exact same 7-week pullback, but what I'm saying is that I expect more of a pullback this few upcoming weeks, maybe around 2 weeks or so. So with that in mind, right, if you go back to the daily time frame, last Friday is what gave us that big surge in volume as we gapped up at market open from buyers, and then we immediately rejected from that whole number of 400. And on top of that, the daily 50 SMA, which is this dark blue line, right? So we had basically a double whammy here as the price was smacked down by the daily 50 SMA and by the sellers that were waiting on that $400 level. So this $400 psychological level is now considered officially a resistance for buyers to overcome. And with Friday's action last week, I would say that the selling will continue for this short week because of the fact that we had a huge amount of selling coming in on Friday. And if we do continue to move to the downside, all right, we need to break below this 319.50 level. And this level is going to be very, very important because now if you go lower and smaller on the time frames, we could be looking at a potential double bottom, right? So if you take a look at the arrows here, right, we have our left bottom here and our potential right bottom. So on Friday, right before close, we start to move rapidly away from this 390.50 level after retesting it, of course. And tomorrow on Tuesday, if we decide to honor this potential double bottom, we should be able to see another revisit back to 394 tomorrow, right? So I would expect the maximum price to be reached at around 394. But if we somehow see more buying volume coming in, okay, I would expect us to reach 396. And that's kind of the maximum target that I have for this short week. But it can also be a very conservative target for this week because if we do see more buying coming in, if we see more somehow positive news coming in for the markets, we can also retest that $400 psychological level and possibly this intraday level of $401.50. Okay, so there's a wide range of possibilities here for this short week, but I would doubt that we can see a very, very large run to either side, to the upside or to the downside because of such a short week. So make sure you guys are weighing in your risks here for the overall market. So on SPY here, overall, I'm expecting more of a larger downturn in the markets, especially for the next 2 weeks at least. And if we do break below 390.50, I want us to come back down and retest around 382.50 and eventually all the way back down to 372.50. Or if you guys want to use a whole number, an easy number, I would say around 371. Okay, our first ticker here for this week is USO, United States Oil Fund. And this one is showing a very, very nice picture perfect head and shoulders chart pattern. And, with this head and shoulders chart pattern, it's inherently bearish. And if you guys have read the market summary, which I advise you guys to read first before coming into this technical analysis video, you guys should know why that the reasons why I gave, that energy can kind of pull back before Q4 starts for this year. Now, USO here is sitting right on top of the daily 200 SMA. And the daily 200 SMA is a very, very, very heavy support as an SMA. And the SMA right now is sitting almost exactly at $71, which is the short term support level, right? As we have been bouncing on this 71 support level for quite some time, all throughout August, actually. So, with the 200 SMA catching up to the 71 short-term support level, there's a possibility that we can see a complete negation of this head and shoulders chart pattern if we have a very, very strong bounce this week, right? And that could only occur if oil and basically the entire energy sector somehow continues to reverse higher and maybe even reach new all-time highs. So with oil here, USO, I would expect us to see more of selling coming back in, okay, due to the reasons that I've outlined in the market summary. But you absolutely have to make sure that you guys see a complete sell-off from 71. So complete break off from 71 in order to see a complete breakdown of this head and shoulders chart pattern. And that's the reason why I gave you guys these two entries once again, right? The first entry is kind of the early entry, and then the second entry is kind of the confirmed entry, right? So once you go past 70.50, that's kind of the point of no return for buyers, and sellers will have completely taken over. And once we have done that, there isn't much support left, maybe around, I would say 68. So a couple of bounces around 68. But once that's also broken, we will possibly see $63 as our next major level of support. Okay, so our second name here is BTU. So BTU is one of my favorite energy plays going into this week, this very, very short week. But also I'm biased because I also have a long-term position. So make sure you guys remember that. So for BTU here, we saw a very, very nice bounce at $23. I wasn't really expecting this big of a bounce on Friday, but as a call name, it kind of makes sense. And you guys should know why as well, because I've been talking about it extensively in the CFO Discord and in this week's market summary and last week's market summary as well. So if you guys forgot, make sure you guys check out last week's market summary. Now, BTU here, it almost reached that $25 level, which is our current resistance right now. And ideally, I would have loved it if we can, retest the $25 resistance level last week, but we didn't, right? However, okay, I love the fact that we actually rose all the way up to this 21 SMA. So for the fact that we have closed and retested this 21 SMA, right above the 21 SMA here, tells me that the momentum for buyers are still here, and that this $23 support level had enough buyers for us to be, for the price to be able to come back above the momentum 21 SMA. Now, the only problem for this upcoming week is that the 10 SMA is going to start acting as a short-term resistance, right? So I want the price to be able to catch up to the 10 SMA first without having the 10 SMA catch up to the price first, right? So what I mean by that is that, well, I want the price to be able to move up faster than the 10 SMA coming back down and catching up with the price first, right? So hopefully that does not confuse you, but if it does, make sure you guys let me know, right? But with BTU here, I expect a short-term target of $26, which should also coincide with the 10 SMA retest as well, right? And that could only occur if the price approaches the 10 SMA first instead of the other way around. Now, the longer term perspective on BTU, I expect to see 30s again, right? That's what we saw back then, back in early 2022 here. And, with this, basically this name kind of consolidating for most of this year after that big run up to the upside for the start of this year. I expect to see another retest by the end of this year around $32. Okay, so that's kind of my long-term perspective on BTU. Okay, so our third name here is URA, right, or the uranium ETF. So we already have a position in this one because I sent out a potential position for the long term in the CFO Discord. Now, the reason why I'm looking at this name is that, well, first of all, right, we had a nice gap up on news, right? I believe it's something to do with the Iran nuclear deal. I really didn't go deeply into it, and I don't intend to. All I know is that the price is acting positively. Now, I'm liking this name also because of the fact that we are staying above this 10% plus gap up to the upside. And if you guys already know me, I love to see price action holding up above a 5 to 10% gap up. And so if this name continues to stay above the gap that is made so far, right, I expect it to continue to run up to the upside because that means the buying momentum is still there even after the gap up. So for URA here, I expect it to bounce off of this 10 SMA. And as it's bouncing away from the 10 SMA, I expect the 10 SMA to cross above and have a crossover above this 200 SMA, which has been acting as a huge level of resistance for the past couple of months. And as that's happening, I want the 21 SMA to catch up and the 50 SMA to catch up. And so far, it looks like it's doing exactly that because both of these two SMAs are curling upwards, right? So far, this name is looking very, very bullish, okay? And once we move away from the momentum 10 and 21 SMAs, I expect the price to reach $24. Okay, so our fourth name here is another uranium name, but specifically UUUU, or Energy Fuels Incorporated. And the reason why I'm starting off in the weekly time frame is that, well, I'm only going to be looking at this name on the weekly time frame. Why? Well, if you take a look on the daily time frame, I kind of don't like how the candlesticks look like, right? They're kind of wicky, okay? There are a lot of wicks on each candlestick, and I do not want to be shaken out by these wicks. So for a psychological trick, I'm just going to look at the weekly time frame. Now, last week, it's kind of bearish, right? So this weekly candlestick from last week, we have a very, very large wick at the top, right? And also another way to know if a name is wicky is if you take a look at the weekly time frame or the broader time frames, and you can clearly tell that there's a lot of long wicks, even on the broader time frames. That's how you know that this name is very, very wicky, right? So make sure you guys are careful when you're taking a look at the intraday and daily time frames. So with or it's a handful to say. I expect energy fuels to continue to run up in the possible future, but judging off of last week's performance, okay, because of this very, very large upper wick here, we could see possibly a red week, since also it's a short week, right? So why not? And if you do have a red week, I expect the 10 SMA on the weekly time frame to catch up and possibly cross over this 21 SMA. And there's a huge possibility that this can happen because the 21 SMA is curling downward and the 10 SMA is already pointing upwards, right? So once that crossover happens, then the weekly perspective will become a lot more bullish. It will be a lot more confirmed that we'll have a bullish movement to the upside, right? So if we do see that happening, I expect you to have another third retest at this $11 whole number level, okay? So this is kind of the final destination for this current bullish run that we're seeing so far. All right, our fifth name here is Baba. So Alibaba here is showing some incredible strength, right? So a couple of weeks back, we kind of broke this $91 support level, and it seemed like this name is going to eventually come back to 2022 lows, which is around $73.28, right? However, okay, thanks to some bullish news that I've outlined in the market summary, this name was able to recover back above the $91 level. And last week, we actually came back down to the same level once more, right? And we're right back down to this 85 to 91 support or demand area, right? As highlighted on this, using this rectangular shape. Now, with Baba here, it's going to be very, very wicky, okay? Just like we saw in and with the volatility of constant Chinese news coming out overseas, and with the fight that's currently going on between the US and China over Chinese listed stocks and US exchanges, as I've outlined in the market summary as well, this one can be a very, very tricky name to trade. However, okay, when this name starts moving in one direction, it can be a very, very large move in that direction. So if you get in at a perfect area or perfect entry, the rewards can be very, very rewarding. Okay, so Baba here, so far it has at least closed the gap up. So that's kind of bearish, right? But for the fact that we have actually stayed above the 91 support level, especially on a day like Friday, when the overall markets, the US markets were selling off, this tells you that there is some strength left in this Chinese name. So if you take a look on the 2-hour time frame, all right, there's a possibility that we can also be seeing, okay, a falling wedge, right? So there's a possibility that this falling wedge can penetrate below into this demand area, which is fine because there's a lot of buyers. And how do I know that? Well, we saw that back in late August here, where we saw that big volume coming in and a big bounce out of this demand area. So that might also be a better opportunity for the price to actually get out of this falling wedge if we do decide to penetrate below into this demand area, okay? All right, so our sixth name here is FUTU or FUTU. So this is another Chinese name, but it's kind of the name that I look at for a broader perspective on how Chinese names are doing, just like with KWeb or CWeb, right? FUTU is kind of the same, right? So FUTU here is actually showing a greater technical rating here compared to BABA, because this one is actually showing a bullish technical setup. And what is that bullish technical setup? Well, it's your old friend bull flag, right? And this bull flag here has been forming all of last week, which is great because we love to see consolidation before a breakout, right? So this one is staying right underneath this $50.50 level, or specifically this 49.50 level, right? But obviously, if you guys want more confirmation, make sure you guys get in at the break of $50, like I've shown you here in the second entry, okay? So make sure you guys don't forget that. Now, with Futu here, okay, there's one problem, okay? Chinese names, whenever they have a big run up, they have a tendency to become very overbought very, very quickly, right? So if you take a look at the RSI here, right, the RSI is already at 67.80, right? That's very, very close to the overbought RSI value of 70. So if it decides to break above 50, okay, this one might not hold the gains from a breakout to the upside, right? Because you might see an immediate smackdown from sellers. Why? Well, because we have a lot of supply above $50 to $51, right? We saw that happening right here, right? And we weren't able to get back above $58, which is the major level of resistance that comes all the way back to last year of mid-November. So be aware of this RSI, okay? You don't have to watch it, right? Especially if you decide to break above 50, but I would keep it in mind, okay? Now, with Futu here, I love the fact that the 10 SMA is catching up, which should be doing that because last week was just a week of consolidation, right? So whenever the price consolidates, okay, and when the price is basically going nowhere, that allows the 10 and 21 SMAs to catch up. And I love the fact that this impulsive move to the upside from the Chinese bullish news that I talked about in the market summary has allowed the 10 and 21 SMAs to cross over the 200 SMA, and it has allowed the 10 SMA to almost cross above the daily 50 SMA, which should occur this very week. All right, our seventh name and our last name is BLUE, Blue. Okay, so I mentioned this one before in the CFO Discord, but I officially want to be watching for this name for this week. And, oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. So with Blue here, I expect to see, more of a run up this week after a great breakout actually from last week. I don't think there was any news to back this run up from last week, but there's obviously some very, very good relative strength on Blue. So hopefully this strength continues this week and Blue continues to see that buying momentum from that FDA approval that they've got a couple of weeks back. Right. So on a technical scale, this one is kind of a, I would say a bad name to be trading because of the fact that it's very, very wiki, and it's also a biotech name, right? They tend to be very, very catalyst intensive name where they depend on catalysts to have a large run. So I would say that's kind of your major risks that you have if you try to trade this name going forward. But just technically, it's moving inversely to the markets, and for the fact that it's still staying near the price levels of the reaction to the FDA approval news, which I believe it was on August 17th here on discount stick, just tells you that there's a lot of buying momentum left. All right, so that's it for equities. Let's take a look at our cryptocurrency pick for this week. So ADA, right? So I want to revisit this one because ADA here is looking very, very good. And the reason why I say that is that, well, this one is looking very inverse to Bitcoin, right? So if you take a look at Bitcoin here, right? Bitcoin is currently undergoing a bearish flat formation, right? And so if you translate this chart to ADA, right, it's leagues different, right? And we're actually forming a intraday bull flag as we speak, right? And with ADA coming back above the daily 50 SMA and staying above the daily 50 SMA tells you a lot about how good this name is actually performing compared to the overall crypto markets, right? So what I want to see here is a hold of 50 cents, which is also coinciding with the daily 50 SMA, so that we can also retest the 55-cent resistance level, right? So this is the level that I was looking at before, which prompted me to add above 55. Obviously, we had a big sell-off, okay? And so if you do decide to come back above 55 cents once more, then I will add, well, again, to my ADA long-term position, all right? Okay, so that's it from me this week. All right, make sure you guys have your alerts set up for any of the names that you guys are looking to trade in the watch list, right? And make sure you guys are always working hard and trading smart. I'll see you all in another video.